All right, guys, welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about one of the more exciting fights on the card for me, Damon Jackson versus Pat Sabatini. This fight is a fight between two of the best grapplers in the division. Pat Sabatini is an undefeated UFC fighter, looked really good in the UFC so far. But Damon Jackson is just one of those kill or be killed type of fighters. And I see him making this a great fight. I see him making this a great fight. I don't think this is going to be one of those fights where either one of them is holding the other guy down, securing a body lock, and that's it. That's the end of the round. I think these guys are going to keep moving. Damon Jackson is going to force the fight to Pat Sabatini, and I think that's going to play into Pat Sabatini's hands, to be honest. I think Pat Sabatini has a positional advantage, wrestling wise. Submission wise, he probably does too. We've seen Damon Jackson submitted twice to Hani Jason and Yancy Medeiros, even though the Hani Jason fight was ruled a no contest for some drugs or whatever. But I think drugs. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But Damon Jackson, he's also been knocked out, which I don't see that really being a path to victory for either fighter. I don't trust their hands, but still, it's something when, sometimes just the losses dictate the fight. Damon Jackson was knocked out by Kevin Aguilar, former UFC fighter at this point, and that was outside the UFC. Uh, Habulayev over in PFL, and then Ilya Topuria somewhat recently, a year ago, whatever. And again, those are his last three losses. He's a fighter with a lot of mileage, so there's a chance his chin just turns to shit. I can't really bet on that because we saw in his Daniel Argueto fight, he got rocked a few times or hit enough anyway, and he didn't go down. I know that's a stupid way to assess someone's chin, but I'm just saying it's not totally shot yet. And Damon Jackson is a beast, fights at a really high pace, really efficient grappling, and great submissions. And he's also wild on his feet too. He goes for it. So I see this fight being closer just because Damon Jackson's the action fighter and Pat Sabatini isn't somebody who, historically is good enough to make Damon Jackson pay, at least not with his hands. A submission I could absolutely see coming from Pat Sabatini. But I think this will be a tight decision, but still in the end, I find myself siding with Pat Sabatini. This guy's just handled so many great fighters throughout his career. A lot of them under the radar, of course, because he's only been in the UFC for 4 fights. But Pat Sabatini is, all the upsides with him. Physically, I think he's in better shape, or, his chin anyway. I think it'll hold up better than Damon Jackson, even though I don't really trust his chin that much, but still, he's a deadly fighter in his own right. We saw his chin get tested against Jamal Emmers, and he heel hooked him like 10 seconds later. So I'm favoring Pat Sabatini. I do think, generally speaking, he'll find himself in more advantageous positions with his wrestling, but Damon Jackson's not going to sit still in this fight, and I don't think it'll be a boring victory for either guy, whoever gets it. My bets for the fight are I sprinkled something on the under because they are both action. Damon Jackson, anyway, is a pure action fighter, and the under is at plus 205. That's just too enticing for me, but it's not my bet. My bet is my prediction is Pat Sabatini wins a decision. So we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a very fun fight. And if either guy loses, it's going to be in a way in which he's never lost before, probably. That's what I think. So Pat Sabatini via decision.